Hey artists, this is Miss Black with another tutorial, one of our bi-weekly videos that we do for distance learners. However, if you are not part of my distance learning groups, you're also welcome to do this. In fact, anybody's welcome to do any of these projects. Feel free to do so, and like always, please send me an image of it because I'd love to see your version of this. So this project is going to be technically for older grades, but all grades are welcome to do this. The only reason I'm saying it's for older grades is because it's a little bit more intricate, but if those of you in younger grades would like to challenge yourself, of course, try this out. So this is going to be a festive sort of project. We're going to be drawing a skeleton, and the reason being is because Day of the Dead is coming up, and I thought it might be really cool to think about culture and to think about the seasons and the holidays and make something that has to do with it. So what you're going to need is a piece of paper. This is a 9x12 paper, but you can use just your regular 8.5x11 paper from the printer. Now, as you can see, I have folded it. I've folded it this way and I folded it this way. And that is just because that will give us guidelines. But if you have a ruler at home and you'd like to draw these guidelines, you're welcome to do that. Just make sure you do it in pencil so that you can erase it. The reason I like to fold it is because it's kind of like an invisible guideline. So the reason why we have this guideline is because we're drawing a skeleton. We want it to be proportional. And proportional means that it is, even though this is 9 inches long, it's still going to look like a regular skeleton. Just a moment. I do apologize. I am at school, so I am dealing with some announcements here and there. So proportion, that's what I was talking about. Proportion is when you have something that you want to look like the real thing, but it might be bigger or smaller. So this is obviously smaller than a skeleton, but we want it to look like a real skeleton. So this line right here, this halfway line from top to bottom, is going to help you with that proportion. So like this half is going to be the head and torso, this half is going to be like the legs. And then this line is going to be helping you with proportion, or sorry, not proportion, but symmetry. Symmetry is when you have two things that are the mirror image of each other next to each other, like a butterfly or like your hands. Okay, so like your left hand and your right hand, when you put them together, they make the same shape. When they open, they're mirror images of each other. So the whole skeleton is symmetrical. So this line is going to help us show that symmetry. So once you have those folded, we're going to start at this line, and we're actually going to start with the pelvis, and that is the big bone that your legs are attached to. And this pelvis actually looks like a butterfly, speaking of butterflies. So what you're going to do is you're going to start at this line, about here and here on the line, and you're going to draw a frowny line to each other, to those two dots. And then you're going to curve it up, go in like a butterfly wing, go out, and then bring it in to about right here. You're going to do the same thing on the other side, make it look symmetrical. And if it doesn't look perfectly symmetrical, that's okay. Right, so this is the pelvis bone. I'm going to also draw two circles on both. I guess you'd call them wings. That's what I'd call them. They're not wings, it's just a big bone, but it looks like wings, so that's what I'm going to call it. So we've got this is the pelvis, and then above here is the rib cage and the skull, so we're going to draw some of those bones as well. So if we go above this pelvis, we're going to be drawing, you'll be able to see the spine, and that is the vertebrae, these little bones that are on your back that allow you to move and twist and bend. So I'm going to draw those, and it's going to look like ovals. I'm going to draw about 3 of these. Maybe 4. Okay, so we got the pelvis, and it's going up into this spine. Now above this, we're going to draw what's called the sternum, and this is part of your rib cage. This is the part of your rib cage that you actually call your chest. It's when you're acting like Tarzan, it's that hard part of your chest that you're hitting. It's called your sternum. And it looks a little bit like a necktie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here. I'm going to go up, and remember, this line is going to help you with symmetry. So make sure you don't go over this line. You're going to go up, and then you're going to go out to about right there. You're going to do this on both sides because it's symmetrical. Like that. And then the top of the sternum is going to look a little bit like a heart. This. Okay, so we've got the sternum, and we're also going to be drawing the rib cage coming out of it. Very top of the sternum is your clavicle. Another word for clavicle is collarbone. So I'm going to draw some lines, or not lines, but, well, lines, yeah, but shapes going out. This is your collarbone. And this kind of looks like a bison skull, almost. That's interesting. So imagine if there were eyes here. This looks kind of like another skull. It's interesting. Anyway, so we've got our collarbones. Now we're going to draw some rib bones. So I'm going to start right here next to the sternum, and I'm going to draw a shape like this coming out, but it's not going to go out beyond the collarbone. None of these bones are going to go out beyond the collarbone. I'm going to do this on the other side, and then I'm going to do one more. It's going to be a little bit longer than this one. Same thing on the other side. And then I'm going to draw a shape that kind of sticks them together. So we're going to go out from here, in, out one more time, and in at the bottom. Do the same thing on this side. Out, in, out, done. So we've got our rib cage now. Okay, and from here, we're going to see more of this spine. So imagine, if you think about your chest and your rib cage, there are organs inside there. There's your heart, it's underneath your sternum. You've got lungs here and here. You've got your stomach about right here. That's kind of in your rib cage, but also around here. And then you've got like a liver and things like that, and it's all being protected by your rib cage. So if you think about it, it's a hollow type shape if you're thinking about it in 3D terms. So behind it, you'd see the spine, but because the sternum is in front of it, you can't see the spine right here. So we're going to pretend like these spine bones go all the way up, and then to right here, we're going to draw about 4 more vertebrae, or spine bones. And that's kind of like your neck. It's going to hold your skull. Right here, once we get to this point, we're going to draw the skull. Now the skull is going to look a lot like an egg shape. So we're going to start with this egg shape, and this is almost going to go to the top of the paper. Okay, and I didn't quite make that symmetrical, so I'm going to fix it. I want to make sure that it's the same distance apart from that line to make it symmetrical. Perfect. Okay. So we've got this egg shape. Now we need to draw the eye sockets, and not only is the whole skeleton symmetrical, but also the skull is. So you're going to think about this line, and if you remember, if I had ever taught you last year about drawing the face, the eyes are actually in the middle of the head. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw these eye sockets in the middle of this skull, right here and right here. And I'm going to draw a nasal cavity. It looks a lot like a triangle or maybe an upside down heart. And then for the mouth, I'm going to draw a smiley line. And then I'm going to act like, I don't know if you've ever drawn like a smiley face that looks like it has these really thick cheeks. Kind of looks like a smiley there. But from those lines, I'm going to draw another smiley line on top and on bottom. And I'm going to draw lines for teeth. Okay, so this isn't quite, I mean, it looks a little bit like a skull, but we're going to make it look even more like a skull. So from here, I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to draw a line just above here, right next to your eye socket, into your forehead. You're going to draw this line. It's going to go out, it's going to cross over this egg line, egg shape. It's going to go out and it's going to go into the mouth right there. Same thing on this side. Out, cross over, and go into the mouth. Okay, and then one more thing to make it look even more like a skull is this is too round. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of angle it going down and out there, and now it's going to look more like a skull. Okay, and then just I would refine this line here and then erase these lines just to make it look better. Okay, so we've got a skull, we've got our rib cage, we've got our pelvis, we've got the main parts of the body. Now we need to draw arms and legs. So we're going to start with the arms. Okay, your arm bone is going to be, oh, you know what I did forget is the not the clavicles, the scapulas. The scapula is, another word for scapula is shoulder blade, and that's on the other side of your scapula, or your clavicle. So I'm just going to draw a line here like this, because we want it to look like it's 3D, right? Okay, so now we're going to be drawing some arm bones. This bone, it's going to look like your classic bone. It's going to go out like this, and it's going to have that kind of heart shape at the bottom, but it's going to go probably to about this rib bone, about to here. So I'm going to draw that heart shape and then bring it up. This is called your humerus. So if you ever hit your funny bone, they're kind of referring to this bone here when they say funny, when you say funny bone. It's your humerus. So I'm going to do this on this side too. Bring it down to about right here. Draw that heart shape at the bottom of the bone of the humerus and bring it up like this. Okay. Now we're going to draw your radius and ulna, and actually, you know, there's two bones in your arm right here, but we're actually just going to draw one shape for that. It's your radius and ulna, or forearm, and it's going to go to just above this line here, but it's not going to touch it. I'm going to draw that heart shape again, bring it back up to here, same thing over here, heart shape, bring it up here. Okay, so we've got this is our elbow, and now we're going to draw the hand. So for this, I'm going to draw this. This is kind of like your metacarpals, like all the bones in your hand and wrist. And then I'm just going to draw another shape for more of those finger bones. And then I'm going to draw the actual finger bones. So starting here, this is going to be like your thumb, and then another bone. Thumb, then another bone. And then I'm going to draw 4 other fingers right here, and the pinky should, because this is like your pinky, should touch this line. We've got more bones. Okay, and we'll do this on the other side. I'm going to start with the pinky, make sure I'm doing it right, with right proportions, correct proportions. Okay, so we've got our hands. Now we're going to draw the leg bones. So right here, we've got a femur, and that's like your that's the biggest bone in your body actually. It's the top leg, like if you think about your knee, it's like this long bone here. And it's going to go right here just below the pelvis. And it's going to go to about halfway from here. So I'm going to bring this bone all the way down to about halfway. Draw that heart shape at the bottom, bring it back up. Okay, same thing over here. Bring it down to about halfway on this square or this guideline. Bring it back up. Okay, so these are your femurs. And then we got our fibia and tibia, and that's your shin bone and your ankle bone that come together to create those joints. So I'm going to draw that, and it's going to be bent. So I'm going to draw this here. I'm going to pretend like these legs are bending, and I'm going to bring it to about right here. We want to leave room for our feet, so I'm going to draw a heart shape at the bottom of that bone. And this isn't my foot. This is just the bottom of those two bones. And it's interesting because your arm bones and your leg bones are very similar in that if you think about it, maybe we could even just draw this. If you draw an oval inside there, it shows those two bones. The same thing is happening with your legs. So you got an oval in here. Okay? So I'm going to do the same thing over here. Draw that oval. If you don't want to draw the oval, that's fine. But I'm going to draw the oval because that's more accurate. I'm going to draw it over here. There we go. Now all that we have left is the feet bones. So what we're going to do first is we're going to draw a big circle right here. This is kind of like your heel. And then here you're going to draw another like oval shape. And then we're going to draw small circles going around it, and those are going to be the toes. You've got 5 toes on each foot. And that is the skeleton. Okay, so we're not done. The next thing I would suggest is finding something to color with. And I've got colored pencils that I'm going to use for this. You can use crayons. Where did I put my colored pencils? Just bear with me. I'm just going to use colored pencils. And choosing a color that you would like to color the background. One might suggest black because it would make your skeleton sort of pop out, but I'm going to choose purple. So I'm going to kind of just color the outside of this in just one color. And I'm not going to show this entire thing because that'll take a lot of time. But just keep in mind, stay outside the lines. You're going to be using the bones to design with Mexican patterns and designs because this is a Day of the Dead project. So I'd be coloring all of that, and I'll show you guys that in a later time lapse. But for the rest of it, first of all, you're going to need black because we need to color in the eye sockets, the nasal cavity. I think that's the only ones. And then what you're going to do is think about Mexican designs and patterns. So I'm just going to look up a few. For Day of the Dead. So if you go online, and make sure you do this with your parents, but if you go online and you look up these types of patterns, they might give you some ideas. Let's see, let me find a really good example here. It's kind of like a sugar skull thing you'd be looking up. Here's a good one. So I'll just kind of show you my screen right now. Okay, so it's got all of these cool little patterns. I do notice a lot of these types of things when I'm looking these types of things up. Spider webs are very common in this type of design. Petals and things like that. And, you know, so if you want to look these things up and give yourself some ideas on your computers, that could be really helpful. Or if you've already done this before and you know what you're doing, go for it. A lot of the time when I'm doing this, I explain to my students, they usually have petals around the eyes. They usually have dots. So I'm just going to think about it the way that I've taught it in the past, and I'm going to choose some colors to draw these things. So I'm going to take maybe my red and put petals around the eyes. Maybe I'll take some light blue and color in those petals. All sorts of things you can do. Dark blue, maybe I'll put some dots in there. Maybe this is like, start with this and maybe some dots. It's kind of like an eyebrow. If you like the movie Coco, you can get some ideas from that. I like this idea of spider webs, so I'm going to draw some spider webs on the cheekbones. So all sorts of things you can do. I'm going to leave it at that, and you guys can watch me finish mine on time-lapse. But yeah, have fun with it. Go watch the movie Coco, and have fun coloring. And this is our skeleton. Thanks, you guys. Have fun. Please send me what you've done. I'd love to see it.